Hi, welcome everybody. It's great to see everyone. Hi, Abigail. Hi, everyone. So if you guys, as you're coming in, wouldn't mind turning on your cameras if you have the ability to. We love to see everyone's beautiful smiling faces in these classes. Community is very important to us. Giving a little bit of a talk if you guys haven't been with us before. If you have, you know the drill, but I will always be making the usual announcements. But it's great to see everyone. And yeah, if you have the ability to turn video on, just please join us. We would absolutely love to see you. And I'm seeing some people turn their cameras on. Thank you so much. We actually like to take this fun thing that we call a Selfie, which is our Zoom selfie, to showcase our wonderful audience composed of such amazing people. So as you're signing in, why don't you guys put in the chat where you are? We love to start off classes with that and see where people are coming in from. So I think I'll start it off by telling everyone I am from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the States. See some New York, Wisconsin, Florida. That's awesome. And we like to do a fun thing, which we might start in a minute, called the kitchen cam, which is based off of the kiss cam. And we like to see if anyone's cooking along. Show you guys just to say hi for a minute. Yeah.
We have started the kitchen cam. I don't know if you can see us, but we just put up Stella. Did you want to say hi? Introduce yourself.
Hi, hello. Coming from Seattle, so I don't have access to the kitchen right now because it's getting used by my housemate. So I'm just watching from my bedroom.
Great to meet you, Stella. We welcome people cooking along. We welcome level 5 chefs. We welcome people who like to make the little Easy Macs in the microwave. Myself being a college student. We welcome people who are just watching for fun. We welcome everyone. This is a space for everyone, no matter what. So yeah, just a disclaimer. We welcome you if you're watching. If you're cooking along, we love that as well. Everyone's welcome and it's great. So do you want to look at anyone else? Do you think, Julia?
Yeah, maybe we'll do one or two quick hellos before we kick off. Give everyone a couple minutes to settle in. How about Sharon? Are you ready to say hello and tell us where you're calling in from?
Hi, I'm calling in from Boston, Mass, and I really enjoy your classes a lot.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
It's wonderful
Welcome,
to see you
Sharon.
again. Yeah.
Oh, I just saw in the chat. Oh, sorry. Someone was asking what those medals are for. I think it's those ones. Those are some, I have to admit, are various participation things, but a few of them are like little writing certificates. I used to do a lot of creative writing, more so in like middle school and elementary school, so I'm not sure how prestigious that is for that age group, but that's a little bit of backstory about me. So yeah, thank you for asking. I always love, like, I'm a little bit of a people watcher some of the time. So it's fun to just see like everyone's different backgrounds and stuff. So it's cool to know that people are peeking in on me as well.
I love it. Well deserved. Kartik, do you want to say hello? You're calling in from India? Did I say your name properly?
Hi. Yes, sir, that's right. So, hi, this is Karthik. I've joined from Mumbai, India, and this is my first session with you all. So, thank you for having me. And then this is more of a learning experience than I'm trying to have. So, it's quite late here, so I'll not be cooking along, more of observing.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
It's quite late.
All right.
I think we might just spotlight one chef. I was looking to see who's cooking along, but I can't quite see it because everyone hasn't turned on their video yet. So that might be a perfect plug for us, Ruby, to begin our Selfie, to take a picture of our time together before we kick off.
Sounds amazing. So I think we should go ahead and do our Selfie. If you haven't turned your camera on and you have the ability, the last call to do so. We would love to see again your wonderful smiling faces. Oh, we love to say hi.
Hello, baby, our youngest classmate.
Yes, she's been dying to get into one of the classes. We also have another little one.
Hello.
You say hi?
Hi.
This is Sybil, Greta, Susan, and I'm Franny. And we're in Concord, Massachusetts.
Amazing. I love it. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for
Thank
saying
you.
All right, let's go ahead and do our selfie. So thank you to some more folks for joining us on video. If everyone could smile, and we will give a countdown to take the picture. Okay, everyone ready? 3, 2, 1. And then I think we'll do one more just in case anyone was blinking. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Amazing. Okay. I think we're gonna do a little bit of intro, and then without further ado, I think we'll go into the cooking demo. So I just wanna say hello again to everyone. My name is Ruby, and I am from Tradition Kitchens, along with the wonderful Julia, who is one of the founders of Tradition Kitchens. And it's so lovely to meet you guys. And for people who have been to a class before, or even I see a few previous teachers, it's awesome to have you guys back here. And for anyone new joining, welcome. We love to have you. Tradition Kitchens is an organization that is all about creating a virtual kitchen space where we share all different things together. We're really about basing our importance in unity and connecting people. So we really find it important to bring together folks from different age groups, different cultures, different experiences in life, and just do this little kind of community-based cooking demo where we're open to hearing all different kinds of experiences in like the chat and questions and just learning together. This isn't per se a master chef organization. We're all about community, and we kind of have a bit of an informal structure, but we do ask during the cooking demo that folks generally keep themselves muted and kind of use the chat just to kind of keep things smooth and running. But at the end, we love to, you know, chat with folks a bit. So yeah, that's a little rundown of Tradition Kitchens. And just for everyone's knowledge, the session is being recorded right now. And at the end of it, we like to send out our cooking library that has the recipes and also a recording, as well as our YouTube channel. So I think I'm gonna pass it over, unless Julia has anything to add or anything. All right, I think I'm gonna pass it over to Priya to begin introducing and chatting with us and cooking.
Thank you, Ruby. Thanks, Julia, and thanks, Ruby, for this wonderful chance to be here. And I'm so amazed. There's so many people from all over the world, so many different places, and unearthly hour in many cities, I think. But thank you for making it. And I'm going to show you how to make rasam. Very, very simple, but I would call it soul food for many of us who come from the south of India. And when the rasam is getting made, I'm going to run you through a little bit of food history and tell you about how the rasam became the mulligatawny soup. And I'll show you a little bit of food history there. So we'll run past a couple of slides when this is cooking. Please ask questions. I don't mind being interrupted. I'll run you through all the different ingredients that we'll use today. And there again, if you have any questions, just stop by and ask. Yeah. I have two cameras here, so Julia or Ruby will highlight the camera so that you can see what's being cooked when we start. But yeah, so to start with this, I hope if there's anyone cooking here today, if you have cooked some lentils, it's here. You can see it's soft cooked lentils. But if you are not cooking, that's fine. We can revisit this in a bit. The most important ingredient in this soup or rasam is the tamarind. And tamarind is the fruit. This is the fruit of the tamarind tree. This is what it looks like. If any of you have seen this before, it has a hard shell. like here, that I can peel open. Let me show it to you here so that you can see it. So you can peel this. It's fairly easy when it's ripe. And it's very easy to find in Asian markets. And I usually buy it in the Thai store. So it's a place where you can buy it. It comes packaged like this. And if you see, it has these long veins that you can peel off, right? And if you were to open this, you'll end up with a soft pulp and seeds inside. You can see, you can almost separate the seeds. The seeds are another delicacy, and that's a talk for another day. But typically people throw the seeds away. But I would urge you to keep them, and you can steam them and roast them. And there are a lot of other nice things you can do with the seeds. So you can see this. This is one way to find the tamarind. And if you have a chance to find fresh tamarind like this, I would recommend that you can dry it. And when you dry it like this in the sun, or in a dry place, you can keep it. It's a store covered ingredient. You can keep it for a really long time. It will be light brown when you first peel it, and with age it darkens. It turns quite dark. But that's the nature of the tamarind. You can keep it in an airtight container and it will stay fresh. For a year, 2 years, there's no problem. Aged tamarind is quite priced as well. Another way that you get to buy tamarind is you might get to buy it as seedless tamarind, where the seeds have been removed and then it's just a paste. And we will use something like that to start with today. You might also find tamarind like this, which has got seeds in it, and that's also fine. And I will show you how to take the seeds out and remove the pulp. So we'll start with can you see this?
This is the nerdy cook in me asking, is that an induction stove, or what kind of stove is that?
Yes. But
I have the funniest story. I once traveled to Europe and I brought my own pot pan because I was staying at some Airbnbs and I didn't know like what quality it would be. And I arrived and they wouldn't work. And the reason why is that they didn't work for induction stove. It was really funny that I dragged it all the way over. Thankfully, the Airbnb did have what I needed. So it's a fun lesson in cooking abroad.
Yeah.
If any of you have had a similar funny cooking experience, feel free to let us know in the chat, since I just revealed my silly story.
I once went, we have a ceremony when you move into a new home. You have to, we boil milk over, and that's a very important part of the housewarming ceremony. And I remember going to this apartment, my previous apartment, and I took along my milk boiling vessel. None of us really drink milk. We bought a box of milk for just that occasion. And when we went there, it had induction, and I had not realized that. And what I thought, exactly this vessel, I had thought this was induction because it was a heavy steel base and it just wouldn't turn on. I didn't know what to make of that, whether I was supposed to be auspicious, good luck, bad luck, no clue. It was just a lot of chaos that morning. So this is tamarind, and you can see I'm going to mix the tamarinds. It doesn't matter. You put this into this boiling water, and just let that come to a boil. Yeah. I find that if I use the pulp, not the ready-made pulp, but these pulp packets that I showed you, I find that I'm able to take out more pulp than if I use this completely dried one. These are very nice too, but I think when you need to cook them longer in order to release the pulp from the this white skin that it has. The second thing we'll do now is to prepare our coriander. This is washed, and I would recommend taking out the leaves alone and keeping the leaves for the end. We will use the stalks to cook our rasam now. So rasam is an everyday dish. Usually when you eat lunch, rasam would be the second course. The first course is some sort of lentil-based curry or a stew, and you would eat rasam for the second round before you move on to yogurt for the third course. When you're sick, it's what you have. It's the equivalent of the Western world's chicken broth. You would have rasam. So there are just many ways to make rasam. Tamarind is a very common sour fruit that we use, but and the version I'm going to show you today is using tamarind and tomatoes. But you can make this with many things. You can make this with garcinia. You can make this with pineapples. You can make this with just pepper. And you can make it with lemon, and you can make it with different kinds of citrus fruits. Actually, they taste delicious. Don't throw away the coriander stalk because it holds a lot of aroma, and you want to add that in when you're making the rasam. You don't want to throw it away because it's really intense. Save the leaves for the end. You don't want them to discolor. When you add them into the rasam beforehand, they tend to discolor. Once the water comes to a boil, just let it rest. Let it just sit there. Meanwhile, take the pot in which you want to make your rasam and pour the water that you've measured out. This is about 700 ml, and I've taken about 300 ml there to boil the tamarind. You can be judicious. You can add the water later. It's not a problem. Don't add too much and then make it too watery. Let this come to a boil. Meanwhile, we'll cut some tomatoes. You can add tomatoes. You can add kumquats. Just anything work. Just be creative. I mean, get the basic recipe right. See how you like the sourness or the sour-sweet mix, and then you can take it from there. Let this come to a boil. So typically, when they make it at home, my mother would probably leave the dal in this consistency. Sort of, you can see it's cooked. It's not smooth, but it has a texture. I prefer to blend this in completely into a smooth mix, so that when you finally make the rasam, it has a consomme sort of very clear, very clean feel. I don't like the sedimentation. I feel I don't consume it, and then it's just wasted. There's always someone who needs to consume that. So I feel if you can blend this into a very smooth puree, then you don't land up with that sedimentation, and rasam itself is just beautiful to drink. We're going to puree that. You can use a hand blender. If you don't have one, don't fret. Just add the water in here and mash it thoroughly with your fingers, and then so I'm going to add if you can see this, the water is quite clear. So I'm going to gently add that water in here. just to be sure that I don't have too much. Your tomato is boiling. I'm just pouring the tamarind water. And I'm going to pour the cold water on top of this tamarind so it's easy to handle, because we need to handle this in a moment. It's going to be a little bit of noise here. You want me to mute as I blend?
It's okay. We'll hear the noise, whatever you prefer. We have a lot of people watching today. Anyone cooking along with us? Just trying to see how you're doing. Looking in gallery view.
You want to ask me some of the questions there from the chat?
Yeah, Ruby, you want to ask a few?
I think there's something relevant.
Someone was asking earlier what the type of lentils were.
This was tur dal, but you can use moong dal, which is also just as good. Just make sure they don't have the skin on so that you have a smooth mix. You need to find a smooth pulp. Chana dal is fine too, but it will have a slightly different flavor and it's very heavy to digest. So typically rasam is a light dish. It's something that makes you feel very good when you have it. And chana dal is good too, but I would recommend that you stick to moong if you want to find another dal. If you don't have anything and you still want to make it, give chana a try. There's really no problem there. And if you can see now, the tamarind is easy to handle. And I'm just going to use my fingers to press the pulp out. The tomatoes are still boiling in there. I'm going to bring that down to a 5 or a 6. You know it's done when it doesn't feel mushy, it doesn't feel soft anymore. What you should be left with is just the inside of the tamarind, and that will feel tough. It won't disintegrate anymore. Try it when you do this with your fingers. You get a feel for it, and that's very important. Don't try to blend it with your hand, with your machine, because you don't want a lot of the fiber like this to come in. So blending this with a machine or with a hand blender or with your mixer, your blender is not a good idea. Use your fingers, and there will be pieces of the shell of the tamarind. There will be some pieces of the seed. You don't want to put that in, and you don't want to grind that. Okay. So at this point, you can use your hand as a strainer. Can you see that?
Yeah. Wow. Who
And
knew?
If you don't feel like doing this, go for a tamis or a sieve. You can see, you just literally, it's like being on the beach and letting the water slip by, right? You do this in the beach.
I love that analogy. I think that's made a few of us smile.
You have to let the food feel your fingers, and your fingers feel the food, right? In Tamil we have a saying, and it's called kai manam. It's called so when someone cooks well, you say that they have kai manam, and that literally means the aroma of the hand. So there are recipes, but you need to let your hand touch your food. It's something very therapeutic about both cooking and consumption. Now you can see that there is still some pulp left, and that is something that we can, when you add cold water in, this last bit will get all that pulp out. You can see that. And this is great to clean copper. So if you want to clean copper, you can, or brass or bronze. It's a wonderful ingredient, natural ingredient to clean your old metal. You can also sun dry it and keep it to clean. Yeah, that would be that. We have all the juice in here. At this stage, please add the stalks in, because you want all that aroma in the broth, and you're going to let this boil for about 8-9 minutes. You need to add some turmeric at this stage. I'm going to run you through one more ingredient so that you can prepare it. This is Asafoetida. It's something that many of you have probably used before. It's the gum of a tree. The root is tapped, and you would gather this tree gum, this root gum actually. So if you were to see Asafoetida unprocessed, they do look like brown rocks. I can show you. They look like this. Many of you might have bought it in boxes where it's like a powder, and that's reconstituted with wheat because this can be very sticky. It's unstable. When it's a rock, it's not unstable, but when you, if you were to leave it with anything that's got moisture, then it can clump up, become very soft. So industrially, it's processed to remain a shelf-stable product with wheat flour. And if you have a powder, that's also fine. I have a Asafoetida that's mixed with oil, and that's why it's soft. It looks like earwax. Bad comparison, but take a little bit of the rasam in it, just a little bit, and I want you to blend like that much into this water. Maybe a little more, just a little more, and let this sit in the water. Don't mix it in just now. This is the last thing that goes in. Yeah, we are 7 minutes through. If you can see the water is beginning to froth, and that's an important sign. If that is happening, then pour in a little bit of the dal that you've prepared. And let this simmer on low. Keep it on 3, don't increase the heat. I'm going to show you how to make the rasam powder. If you've seen the recipe that I had sent across, this is 5 teaspoons of coriander, a teaspoonful of cumin, pepper, and lentils. If you have an iron skillet, nothing like it, use that because it tends to have uniform heat and retain the heat to toast your spices. The idea here is to gently heat the spices just enough to release the aroma and get their flavor compounds activated. It's not to roast them, and it's definitely not to burn them. We can start with the lentils, so they take the longest. to roast. I can move this camera. Just a second. Can you see this? Ruby and Julia? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
You can, my flame is on medium here. And
When you're roasting those, do you
Yeah.
put any oil in the pan or is it just, you just let it go?
toast them.
Ah, toast.
That's a big difference. So you're going to toast the spices and not roast them. You can make this powder. I think the measurements I've given you is for very little powder, just enough to make once or twice. And if you ask me, that's the right way to do it, because then the powder is really fresh, and you can adjust it to suit your taste. But typically people make spices that last them, the spice mix to last them a whole year or at least a couple of months. So it's made in large bottles and packed away. In that case, you don't want to have oil in that, because that would reduce its shelf life. Oil can go rancid, so you wouldn't do that. And a lot of these spices anyway have oil in them. So if you fry them too long, the oil would, like for example, the coriander seed that we're going to use, there is oil in it naturally. You can see this is slightly turning, a deeper shade of yellow. And you can smell the aroma of the roasting. At this point, add your coriander in. Do it one by one, because each of these have different roasting times. If you notice, I've left the rasam on a very low heat, so it's cooking but not boiling over. It's really important to keep it slow. And if you've also noticed, I've not added the salt in just yet. When the coriander smells great, add your pepper in. And if you want to add a chili or two, you can add. This is just one. If you don't want to, if you want to avoid it, that's fine too. It doesn't matter.
Is that a chili?
That is a chili, yes.
Wow.
You can use any chili as long as you know how spicy it is. So a lot of times the chilies that you get to buy in the Western markets, at least here in Europe, you get to buy a variety called Rasam patti, and that can be quite hot. So give it a try. If you know the brand and if you've tried that chili type before, then you know it, right? You're familiar with it. Okay, now it's really roasting. I can smell the pepper. At this point, add the cumin in. Are you hearing a pop?
Yeah, I hear it very slightly.
Turn it off. Take it off the heat and let this cool. Let it cool completely before you have to grind it. I'm going to leave it back here so you can see the rasam. I have a bit of the powder made beforehand, so I'm going to use that. So I'm going to take the heat back to 6. Sorry. So again, not too high, but medium to high.
Priya, could I hop in and ask a question or two right now? So, someone was asking, they use tamarind they're using the tamarind paste form, and they were asking, do you know how much they would use? Like 2 tablespoons, a tablespoon?
Could you show me what tamarind paste you have? Because if it's a pure paste that you have, that almost feels like jam, you get that variety too. If it's that, then I think you should reduce the quantity of tamarind to half. So if it's 30 grams of tamarind, that's I think I put in 2 tablespoons of tamarind. Try it with 1 tablespoon. Again, tamarind, it depends on the soil that it grows and how sour the fruit is. Typically, if you buy this Thai tamarind, like I showed you, or you use any of this, the quantity is what I told you. But if you buy the other one, I would highly recommend that you try once. And if you feel it's not sour enough for you, then you can add more. I think when I've tried buying from Mother's or Dabur, which is another brand from the Indian stores, I find them very sour and kind of very acrid, and I don't enjoy it so much. That's why I prefer to use this. But if you have it and that's what you have on hand, give it a try. 1 tablespoon to start with. And you know what? If you end up having too much tamarind in it and it feels very sour, don't fret. You can add a little extra dal and you can balance it out. You can add a little bit of jaggery and balance it out. You always need to have a sour-sweet balance. Can you see this froth that's forming over here? That's an indication that the lentil and the tamarind are now cooked. At this point, add the salt. I like to use rock salt granular salt versus table salt. Would you call that kosher in the US?
Yeah, I think that, I don't know, actually, Ruby.
Yeah. Yes.
What do we think? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you to our kosher salt experts.
Then you would add your rasam powder in. Give it a stir. You can see it's really frothing and coming up, right? Like coming together here. That's the formation you want to look for. Reduce the heat, and that will continue to happen. If you smell it, the coriander seed will feel more cooked, will smell more cooked. So I think really go by your nose, go by your sense of smell here. It's really important. The spice mix will smell more cooked. And you will notice that only when you add the salt in, you can start smelling it. And that's why I said you should add the salt at the end, because you want to preserve the aroma and the flavor. And if you add salt right in the beginning, all of that aroma molecules escape into the air. That's just the science of it. I think it's done here. So we'll turn it off. You will add in the Asafoetida water that we made. And you will close it and let this just rest. And I will come back to you. I would like to show you something about how this rasam, that was a very humble dish. You know, in the old days, we only made it with pepper. We didn't even have tomatoes, right? Tomatoes comes with the with the colony period, and so it's not a native vegetable in India or native fruit, if you want to call that. So the original rasams were made with just pepper water, and it was cooked pepper water, and even today it's made. But before we show you what's being made today, I'm going to share this slide. Can you see me here, sharing the slide here?
Not yet.
No, sorry, I turned something else on. All right, should we screen share and
Let us know if you need us to share. Oh, it's working now. There we go.
All right, can I go full screen?
Maybe if you hit play on that button might work for full screen, right next to Keynote Live. Yeah, let's try that. Yep, there we go.
Okay. Did you know that rasam or mulligatawny soup was Batman's favorite soup? That was new to me, so I thought that was very interesting. So here we are making someone's very favorite soup. I can't move. Sorry, we should have tested this.
That's okay.
I can't. It's frozen.
Yeah, it's not going to the next slide.
I think it's a problem with Zoom. I remember.
Maybe hit escape and go back to the.
I can't seem to hit escape.
Oh, now we got the next slide. Oh, and then it went to the one after it. Yeah. Okay.
So, what we had before was miligatani. Milaga means pepper, black pepper, which is native to the southern part of India. It comes from Kerala. Black pepper is native to Kerala, and it's called milaga. And today, the word milaga is often translated as chilies. There's a big difference between pepper and chilies. Pepper is milaga, and chilies is milaga kai. Kai means fruit. So I think the word stems from the Sanskrit marich, literally meaning black pepper. Originally meaning the long pepper. If you have seen it, it's a subcultivar. It's a longer, more pungent pepper, and black pepper comes much later to us, but it's still native to the region. And from there, the colony period, it turns into mulligatawny, and it travels to Britain. And another version of it continues in the southern regions up until today. In Tamarind, it's called as Rasam. In Andhra, which is slightly north along the Coromandel coast, and in Karnataka, it's called Saru or Charu. All of it essentially meaning essence or the juice of something. It can be made of many different ingredients, but rasam is a common name or a suffix that you would add to a sour fruit-based soup. The earliest mention of mulligatawny or mulligatawny that we get to hear from historic records is actually in a prisoner's memoir from a British officer who was a prisoner of war in the Indo-Anglo war that was fought in Karnataka with Tipu Sultan, the Anglo-Mysore War. And in his memoirs, he writes of how mulligatawny was served in the prison. Perhaps it wasn't a luxurious dish that we know today. It was just served in the prisons because it was just everyday food, like kanchi, as he laments here. And the picture here is from the Anglo-Mysore War. And then in 1817, we have it mentioned in Dr. Kitchener's very famous cookbook, where he talks about a growing popularity of this new and invented soup in England. But he does not think it's very popular yet, and he doesn't consider it very charming, as you can see in the quote there. But he does refer to it as a very popular food with the East Indians, and East Indians is again, it's a confusing term. In some historical references, it refers to people from Bihar and the eastern part of India. Like if you look at people who travel to Guyana and Trinidad, Tobago, and the Caribbean, that population is also referred to as East Indian, but that's from a different region. But here, I think he generally means people in the East. Then the next reference comes from 1823, and this is from the British missions in Madras. The picture here is actually from the Danish colony in Trankaba, which is also in Tamil Nadu. And they talk about the mulligatawny being a hot vegetable soup, because you can add vegetables to this. You can add, like we added tomatoes today, you can add drumsticks. It's a very popular addition. You can add radishes. You can add lots of small berries. It tastes delicious. There are lots of wild berries that you add into rasam, in a traditional rasam. You can do the same. You can add blueberries are delicious in rasam. Give that a try. And if you have any wild cranberries, taste really good too. Yeah, and actually cranberries remind me a lot of these native berries back in India, and I've tried making them into pickles and relishes, and they taste really good. So yeah, you can give that a try. But the most interesting and probably the most substantial reference to mulligatawny turning to mulligatawny comes from Wyvern, from this British officer called Robert Kenny Herbert, who writes a wonderful book called Culinary Jottings for Madras. If any of you are interested in food history, highly recommended book. It's a fantastic read. Gives you a great insight into life in southern India of that time. And he actually talks of mulligatawny that was being made by his cook, Muthuswamy, whom he refers to, many times in the book. Muthuswamy is this omnipresent cook, and Wyvern always takes inspiration from him and makes his own British versions of it. And as you can see here, he does refer to a very watery version of the soup that is made by Muthuswamy. And he says the English can take that idea and add other condiments and thicken it with flour and butter. And I think it's this notion of producing something that has more body than something that is so thin. I think it's that need to have something that's slightly more thick that prompts them to add a thickening agent. Further in the book, you can actually read that he recommends adding arrowroot powder or potato starch. Basically other ways to add body to this. I'm going to heat up some rice on the side as I'm talking. So I can show you how this is mixed and eaten with rice. In 1900, we see this being served in restaurants, and in this case, it's actually a menu card from a cruise liner. The SS Etruria in 1900, and mulligatawny soup is served as consommé chiffonier, as you can see. So it's made this jump from being rasam and being a poor man's food to being served in restaurants and then in cruise liners. In 1903, Hobson Jobson, if you've followed any vernacular Indian dictionaries from the British era, you would know that Hobson and Jobson is the go-to book to know about the terminology of the period. And there he actually starts saying that the word mull was beginning to be used as a moniker for people from Madras. Such was the connection between mulligatawny and people from Madras that it was almost a moniker for them. And a cute cup, I thought, which had a recipe for a mulligatawny soup. And here you can see they add curry powder, which I think is a version of this powder that we made. And I'll show you some versions that you can buy ready-made. Dr. Livingstone, very famous British explorer in Africa, one of the earliest explorers, also writes about taking canned mulligatawny soup. Such was its popularity at one point that officers took it with them when they went out on expeditions. And to this day, you can buy a can of mulligatawny soup, and you can see the soup, but you can also see the curry powder. And I think that's the interesting bit here, that the rasam powder becomes the Madras curry powder. It is the base for the sambar powder. The sambar is slightly more elaborate with more dals in it, but the base is a rasam powder. Sambar is a dish that also comes to us much later in the 1700s. It's not originally from the region. This is the original recipe, which, at least the ingredients. There is coriander seed, there is cumin seeds, and there's black pepper. All three are native to the region, and it is from Madras. Madras curry powder is fairly close. If you don't feel like making your own rasam powder, go ahead, find a curry powder and you can make it. But I've given you a very simple recipe, cut short of all those extra ingredients. Try it. So where is the mulligatawny today? Have we lost it? I would say yes, in some sense. Most people just tend to make rasam as I do today. Miligatani is it's something that someone makes only when you're sick, when you have a flu, when you have a cold. You would definitely make pepper water. If you want to make miligatani, you can follow the process. Just don't add the lentils, the cooked lentils in it, and you can amp the pepper a lot more, like 3 times the quantity of pepper. So it's super spicy, but it has a different spice, right? Because pepper has a different heat than chilies. There's no lentils in pepper rasa. But I want to show you something about where it all started, and to show you that, I'm going to have to skip a screen and go down to. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to see my food encyclopedia that I'm building on Instagram, a portion of it on Instagram. The very first post that I started with in 2015 actually is a recipe to make rasam, or a very similar dish. It's called avarana, and it is from 500 BC. It is mentioned in the very first Brahma Sutra, the Griya Sutras, or the Dharma Sutras, and it is referred to as a hearty broth spiced with long pepper, which was the earliest form of pepper known to us, and asafoetida tempered in ghee. This is exactly what is said in 500 BC, and I think the recipe that we did today is super close to that if you remove the tomatoes. So yeah, you are. I would highly encourage you to give this a try, and I write this encyclopedia on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, you can see it. Each line is an entry. I'm doing it from A to Z. I'm still completing A. There are about 60 entries in A. Each line is an entry. I talk about the dish. I talk about its history, its cultural connect, and how do you prepare dishes. So there are sometimes recipes, but there's a lot of other anecdotes to each entry in it. Yeah.
Hey, Priya, we can't, we actually just still see the PowerPoint. I don't know if you wanted to pull up your Instagram and show us the encyclopedia, or we can do it, whatever works for you.
But you could see it. Sorry, it was here. I can show you.
No problem.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yes, so beautiful.
So this is the original rasam from 500 BC. And can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a recipe that I've adapted from the Baudhyayana Dharma Sutras, or the Griya Sutras. And I have the sutra number there if there's any Sanskrit nerd in the audience to take a look. But the recipe actually says that it is a broth spiced with long pepper, asafoetida tempered in ghee. And we'll do the tempering now on our rasam, and you will see how similar the whole process is and how the whole dish is so faintly connected to this ancient dish. So yeah, this is my Instagram, my encyclopedia of Indian foods that I'm photographing, cooking, and writing. I'm going to stop sharing so we can go back to our Zoom. And yeah, if there is any questions, just read them out to me so that I don't miss any. I can answer them. And we'll try to temper the rasam here. I'm going to use a very traditional tool to do my tempering. I also wanted to show you another. This is a vessel that we always use to make rasam. It's a classic. It's called the ear chumbu. You can find them in more or less the same shape. Yeah, I think my great grandmother used it too. So it's what you use. It's what rasam is made in. You can make it in anything, but I think many of us would believe that the rasam tastes much better when you make it in this. We use something like this to temper, but again, if you have a skillet, small one, you can use that. I'm going to use the flame. Do you want me to move the camera to see the flame?
Yeah.
Right.
And it looks like we had some questions about your story. I know we'll get to that in a little bit more about how you wound up in Denmark and a bit more about your work. So as soon as you finish this round, we'll get to some of those curious questions.
chop your coriander and keep it ready. And I once had an aunt who said that if you don't have ghee, don't bother making rasam. Ghee is so integral to making rasam, and its final flavor comes from ghee. So keep the heat low. You still need some asafoetida. The tempering for cumin for rasam is to start with cumin. Give it a few seconds. You can see that the cumin is turning slightly yellow and brown. At this point, you need to be quick. Very, very little bit of asafoetida, like really just a pinch, but that's important. And you will hear the mustard splutter. If you can hear that spluttering, you will open this rasam. You will sizzle it right in. Add your coriander and make sure you keep it close till you serve. It's ready to eat. And if you find this a bit too sour, you can add a little bit of jaggery or unprocessed sugar. Comes like a rock. Sugar is too sweet, so try to find maybe a spoon of maple sugar, maple syrup or something is also fine if you don't have jaggery, but just some sort of more dense molasses flavor. Just a spoonful if you find it too sour. Usually the salt offsets the whole thing. It should be fine. There is a way to eat rasam, and that is when you, I'm going to show you that. When you take the rice, you have to make sure, see this here. You have to make sure that the rice is very soft and mashed. It is really important to eat it that way. That's when rasam tastes best. You can
Sorry, we got disconnected for just a little bit. We missed a step about taking the rice.
So the rice needs to be mashed completely. Can you see it?
Oh, yes, thank you.
And that's an important step. If you're adding any ghee to your rice, which is recommended, then it has to be done at this stage. But having your rice really mashed like this is crucial.
So what type of rice was that?
So this is a rice called punni. But if you go to the Asian store, I mean, I can tell you that you should avoid jasmine or you should avoid basmati because
Okay.
that has a very strong aroma that you don't want to have with rasam. It just doesn't play together. Try to find a non-aromatic short grain rice, a medium to short grain rice that is not hard when you cook, like sushi rice, for example. That still retains that text, that bite. You don't want a rice like that.
And did you just use water and salt, or was there oil or butter or anything in there?
In this rice here,
Yes.
nothing. It's just the rice straight from the rice cooker or from wherever you're cooking it. However you
Okay, so just water and salt. Okay.
No, just water. There's no salt in this rice.
No salt. Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah. But you can see that it's really soft. And at this stage, you can you can add. So there are two ways to eating rasam. You can take it from the bottom where there's lentil and the broth and everything, or if you like it really clear, you can have it that way. So this is the consistency you want to achieve, where it is a bit soupy and the rice is in it. Yeah, there you are. It's ready. I can see some question here about giving rasam to babies that are 1 year old. Oh yes, most definitely you can give rasam. In fact, it's one of the early foods. Yeah, I think babies love rasam because it has this wonderful tang and umami that comes from the tamarind. Go for it. Just, yeah, we all did it. I've given rasam to my children. I'm sure I was fed rasam as well. It's a very gentle food to start with. And even today, when you're sick, rasam is what is offered at home. Anyone else here asking any questions? Sorry, you want me to read them out?
Thank you, Priya.
Yeah, we can read them for you. Ruby, do you want to do that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, if you've seen anything from early on, I can see Zareen saying that white pumpkin. Yes, white pumpkin is delicious. You can add white pumpkins to rasam. Make sure you cook the pumpkins beforehand, so that white pumpkins sometimes do take a little time to cook. So cook them beforehand and then you can add them in. It's delicious. Yes.
There was a question from Nancy that was asking, why does the Asafoetida need to go last? Would it change the taste if it cooks too long?
No, this was something that I learned from my grandmother-in-law, and she would always add it in the end. And she said, the moment to add Asafoetida is when you're not going to let it boil anymore. If you let it boil anymore, then the smell the aroma escapes. So the trick was to add Asafoetida to make the most aromatic broth. So there's, one aspect of it is the flavor, but the other aspect of it is the aroma. And if you want to make it super aromatic, you want to make sure that you add the salt and the Asafoetida almost towards the end. That's I think it's just a bit of kitchen wisdom.
I think there were also a few questions about the rice and what type of rice you were using. Would you mind talking a little bit about that?
Sure. I've used a rice called punni. It's quite popularly available in the Indian shops or the Asian shops. You can also use Sona Masuri, which is also another Indian varietal. There are, I think as long as you can choose a non-aromatic rice, you're good to go. There are many different rice that I've seen, at least in Copenhagen now. I'm sure in the US you get a lot more variety. There's also, let me show you here. I have, there's another one called samba rice, like this. That's good. That's also good. There's no aroma. the thing with basmati is the rice has a structure and the rice has an aroma. And somehow for South Indian dishes, for a lot of these dishes, it just doesn't pair well. And yeah, I remember going to this Tamarind wedding in Thailand, and the chef came from I think the Meridian. He was flown all the way from India, and he actually cooked basmati with all the Kerala and Tamilian dishes. I thought that was sacrilege. That was not done.
I think Elizabeth had some questions about the printed recipe. She had her hand raised earlier. Did you want to unmute and ask those questions? Okay, maybe we'll come back to her.
Yeah, I would love feedback on the recipe. Was it too detailed? Did you find that too long? A lot of us don't read the recipe entirely before we start cooking. So that was really some sort of feedback I was expecting. I would love to hear more. I can see Zareen has seen some of my recipes before. I've seen you, Zareen, in earlier sessions. So yeah, any feedback on the recipe would be great. Yeah, did you find it overwhelming to see ingredients measured both volumetric and by weight? Would you prefer one over the other? Or did you find that useful?
I loved the layout. It was beautiful, like visually really, really clear and nice. So I like it. A lot of people seem to have good feedback for you.
Good. Yeah, if there's any questions we've missed, please feel free to ask. And yeah, give the mulligatawny soup a try and see how distant these two are, how they've crossed paths and they've diverged. I think they've become two very different dishes, although the starting point was the same. And yeah, I think you should give them a try. Do an A/B test. It's fun to experiment with historic recipes and see how far they travel.
Can you tell us more about your story and how you got into cooking and how you wound up in Denmark from India?
That's a long story. Cut short, I've been here for the last 17 years. I've lived in Copenhagen. So yeah, this is where I call home now. And my family lives in Coimbatore, which is in the southern part of India. My parents live there. I don't have any siblings, so I'm the only child. And what brought me here? I got married to my longtime classmate and friend, and he at that point lived here in Copenhagen. He had moved here to set up a design school. We are both designers by background. I'm a weaver, and yeah, we moved here to set up a design school. This was way back in 2006. So it's an interaction design program. So yeah, a lot to do with technology and design. And I think food is still very closely related. I don't see it as a different thing at all. It's it uses all your skills that you learn as a designer, right? You have to communicate. You have to design, even if it's a traditional recipe, even if it's a known food. You have to, if you want to communicate it to someone, there is a lot of thought that goes into the process of showing it. But I think all aspects of food excite me a lot. For many years, I worked with a lot of design consulting, and that was for a lot of pharma in Denmark that is food related. So for years, I've done projects with Novo Nordisk and around food, how people eat food, and the problems of consumption. We've worked on some landmark projects with diabetes and obesity, and I've traveled a lot in the world studying people and their cooking habits and eating habits, mainly with that lens, with a healthcare lens. So I've seen a very different side of food and consumption. And I think food history was my pet peeve. I've always enjoyed it. This Instagram thing just started out last year. Like many of us finally found time to, give wing to our dreams. I've always wanted to do it, but never knew what my angle should be. And I have notes sitting here on the side for the last 16 years. I have books and notes. I had to find a way to share it with the world. And I think the idea with the encyclopedia being on a public medium like Instagram was, I think, on one hand, I do get feedback from the family saying that it's probably too nerdy and it's very verbose. There's a lot of text for a medium that is very flick friendly, and people are not going to read it. But I hope that people will join the conversation at some point. My idea was I think the idea of an encyclopedia has long been that there have been these scholars who write it, and there's a large disconnect between academia and practice and culture. And somehow these three just never come together. And it's not possible for one person to know about the diverse cultures that exist in India. There's just so much information, and I really hope that people will discover it and join in the conversation and say, hey, you cooked, like today I cooked asparagus beans, and I cooked it in so many different ways, and I found I'm learning too as part of the process. So my learning with asparagus beans, the long yard beans, is that it's a very important ingredient in the Caribbean, where the East Indians or the diaspora, the indentured laborers and their descendants cook it. And it's an extremely important ingredient. And I have actually cooked a dish from Bihar, the region where a lot of the people migrated. And I've cooked dishes from Guyana and Trinidad. And you can see how there is a commonality between the three dishes. So I think it's also a way to learn and explore and share at the same time. So yeah, that's my food story.
Your photographs are just so beautiful. It was really great. And your knowledge of history. I love this class for all that background you did, just not the recipe. So that really tied it all together for me.
Thank you. I was hoping that no one would get bored listening to that.
No, I didn't.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, but do give it a try and tell me how it turns out. I'd love to hear.
Could you tell us where to find the recipe? I missed that.
I think Ruby or Julia should have, or will mail it to you if you haven't received it already. I think someone pushed it on the chat box as well. You can download it.
Yeah, it's I can send it again through the chat box, but it'll come up as a PDF with the title, and if you just click on it, it should download to your computer. But we're also going to be sending out like a copy of the recipe, usually with like a kind of closing email to everyone. So everyone should get that then as well. But I'll just drop this back in the chat. Yeah, if you got the one of the emails prior, they're also in some of those emails.
I was confused about the picture that precedes the recipe because it looked like just a clear broth, and it's garnished.
Actually, if I were to show it to you, let me show you here.
It doesn't look like there's lentils or anything in it.
Because the broth clears out.
Okay.
I can show you here. So
you're facing the wrong way. There you go.
See that? It's super transparent. Actually, if you let it settle, and I've also served it at dinners where I've just put the whole thing through a sieve, and it's beautiful. It just looks translucent like you saw it. And I don't like the lentils at the base. That's why I try to grind it and pulverize it as much as I can. So I don't have to it. I remember as a kid never wanting it and always asking for the clear broth on the top, and I would always be denied it.
Now it makes sense, the picture. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my grandmother would always say the nutrition is in the base, so you have to, they would muddle the whole thing and then give it to you. And it always feels like such a pity to drink rasam.
That's great.
So when I've served it at dinners at pop-ups here, I've always said, I think, you're drinking my childhood dream.
And now you're the adult, so you can make it the way you want.
Oh, yes.
What part of it you want.
Oh yes, I think the best is when my dad is around, because then he doesn't mind the base, and I'm delighted because then I can have all the clear broth and I can guilt-free give him the base and have it.
That's very typical of dads to take the leftover part of it.
Oh yes. I don't think I'm going to grow up to be a mom like that. Grow old.
You're always keeping the broth for yourself.
It's funny. I think some things are just so ingrained in your DNA. My son's like, I think he wants it clear. I'm like, where did that come from? Yeah. But children love this. So yeah, if you want to give this to kids, actually what you could try doing is, if you want to make it a little protein rich, then use a little bit of the lentil with the rice, make it like a khichdi, and then you can add the rasam to it. And that's what I do when I serve it to my kids, because like my grandmom said, there is no nutrition in just the broth. You need to have it with the lentils. So you need to mix it all up, and a good dollop of ghee is, makes everything taste delicious. So yeah, make your ghee and add it to that. You can eat this with a lot of simple things. At a pinch, you can just have it with chips. I mean, if that's your work from home lunch, go for it. You can make a lot of stir-fried vegetables, taste delicious with this. Potatoes are a classic combination. Okra, stir-fried okra with rasam, again, a very classic combo. Give that a try. Yeah, papadums go really well with it. Yeah.
Any final questions? This has been so exciting to learn from Priya today, and great questions.
Christine, I see the jaggery note. I didn't want to overwhelm anyone with the information. So if I said I can add that in when I speak. If you like it, you can add jaggery. Many families don't. I like to add a little bit of jaggery because I think it, and when I say a little bit, it's really like, like that much of jaggery, half of that, really just a little bit. Because I think when you add that tiny nugget of jaggery in a soup that's made of tamarind, there is that sweet sour balance is incredible. Don't make it sweet. So it's not about adding a lot of jaggery. It's just really a nut-sized piece of jaggery. Just that much to offset. You can do the same with anything that you make. Yogurt, you use yogurt. Like if you make a yogurt-based curry, Indian style curry, or yogurt-based dish, just a half a teaspoon or quarter teaspoon of sugar always gives that yogurt a balance. You always balance the sweet and the sour. So do that. Yeah, as Mrs. Gupta said, jaggery is only if it's too sour for your taste. Yeah, exactly. So some people love the sour, and I'm amazed because I've made rasam, and we have a lot of our Danish friends come home for dinner very often, and I make rasam, and I've tried what I would call the big brother of rasam. There is another dish that's entirely made of tamarind, literally tamarind paste. That's flavored. It's delicious. It's called vetakormbu. And I always make it as a test to see who likes it and who doesn't. So there's always many other things on the table, but there is always vetakormbu or rasam. And I'm amazed they love it. People love it. I mean, they have never tasted something so sour and so tangy before, but I've seen people like it. And I've had to make doggy packs of the rasam for many of our guests sometimes. They like it so much. They just love the sourness. It's something that we as Indians, or at least I feel a little, maybe it's too sour for someone, but people tend to like it. Babies love it, I think. Yeah, children love it.
All right.
Well, on a sour note, our next class is actually key lime pie on Wednesday evening. So we'll send you an email about that if you want to join us. And then we have an exciting class coming up at the end of May, showcasing Taiwanese noodles and sweet cucumbers. So we haven't released that yet, but be on the lookout for it. And I'll toss it to Ruby to wrap us up. And thank you, Priya. This is so awesome. I just wanted to share that Priya emailed us, and we didn't know each other before. A lot of our teachers, we know they're friends of friends or just people who come to our classes. And so it's just really wonderful how during these times, we can all connect and find each other and create a community, as Ruby said when we spoke. So Priya, it's been wonderful getting to know you and your stories. And I'll pass it to Ruby to take us home, unless Priya, did you want to say anything to wrap us up?
Nothing much. There's my email, so if there is any kitchen conundrums, don't hesitate to write and ask. No problem at all. Happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Priya. And just a big thank you to everyone who was able to make it. It was great to have you guys. And just again, reiterating, we will be sending out an email that should have like all this info we were talking about, and we can include Priya's Instagram handle. So if any of you guys are on Instagram, you can check that out. You can check out our Instagram. And yeah, we'll send you more information about potential other classes. Again, we'd love to see you joining us again if you're new, or if you've been here before, we would love to see you again. So just thank you for coming. And it was a great session with everyone, and we hope to see you in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a
Bye-bye.
great
Thank you
evening.
very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Do you want me to stay, Ruby or Julia?
Sure, yeah, definitely stay. I'm going to hit stopping the recording now.